I remember the day the police officers came to the house. I was actually taking a shower. I'd worked out that morning and went into the bathroom. Heard my dog barking, didn't really think much of it. We live out in the country, so she barks at everything. So I'd gone in to take a shower and I kept hearing her bark. And I thought, what is going on? Maybe there is someone out the door. So I got out of the shower real quick, wrapped a towel around me, went to the door, and I didn't see anyone. I was like, that's strange. And then I turned around and I looked out my window and I saw on our back deck, looking out at the scenery, 2 police officers. And I thought, oh, okay. So I ran into the bedroom to get dressed real quick and came out the front door and went around, and they were really shocked to see me. I'm sure they thought I was not at home. And they immediately said, first of all, you're not in trouble. And I was like, okay. And I'm still, nothing's registering, except, where we live, there have been hunters that come through our neighborhood a lot. And I thought it has something to do with that. Maybe there was some hunters in the area and they're here to tell me about it. So I went into my living room and they asked me to sit down, and they said, we're here to inform you that you have a death in the family. And I was like, okay. And they said, are you the mother of Andrew Scott? And I lost it. I started screaming, no, 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 no. I kept thinking they've got the wrong Andrew Scott. This isn't happening. And I just sat there screaming. And then it dawned on me in my mind, I'm thinking, he must have had an accident on the way to work that morning, and that's how he died. And so then I asked them how, and they said it was by suicide. And it was at that point that I remember completely just screaming as loud as I could. I ran into my kitchen and I collapsed on the floor and started screaming, no, no, no. And then I got up and I ran into my bedroom just as hard as I could, and they were following me. My dog was barking. And I collapsed on the floor, and I'm sure they were worried, I was going to do something drastic to myself even. And they said, ma'am, we would like to hold you, and make sure you're okay. Can we do that? And I said, yes. And I was just crying profusely and screaming no. And literally, I don't remember a whole lot except, telling my husband, only wanting my son. My husband was out of town on his job, and I wanted my other son here with me, and that was the only person I wanted around. And my husband came home from his trip, and we had to tell everybody else in the family. The first thing I knew was that I was going to need help to get through this. I knew there was no way that I was going to be able to carry on without needing professional help. And so my family and I, my husband and I, we got a grief therapist. And the first thing that she told me, which was very disheartening, is that there's no fast track through this grief. She's like, you're just going to have to go through it, unfortunately. There's no way to skip around it. And she was right, of course. But I found that talking was very helpful for me. My whole life changed, though. I I will never be the Annette Scott I was before my son died. I still find that when I'm alone, it's the worst time for me, driving in the car somewhere, and I'll cry until I get there and then try to wipe the tears and just long enough to go in. I still find, even in the grocery store, there are moments when there's like something can just trigger, and it doesn't matter where I am, and I'll just start crying. And it happens. Fortunately, I will tell you that over time, those bouts of just flat out on the floor crying, begging God to turn back the clock and change time and bring him back and let this all be a nightmare. Those times get further apart where I'm just, the grief bursts aren't as often, but they do still happen. It's been a year and a half. I found the support group, Suicide Survivor Support Group, extremely helpful. My son was active duty for 7 years. He actually just got out of active duty due to his alcohol use. He could not quite kick that, and therefore he was dismissed from the military. He was honorably discharged, but they say, now I learned so much after his suicide that a lot of people use alcohol or drugs to sort of self-medicate when they're having depression or anxiety or some type of mood disorder. So that, might have been a sign that if we had known that this could possibly be the outcome, we may have seen that. Last time he came home for Christmas, he hadn't been home hardly at all since he had joined the military. So we saw that, man, he's really agitated and he's having these thoughts about aliens and NASA and stuff that was kind of bizarre. But Andrew read all the time. Literally all the time. And so we just thought, okay, he's reading stuff or he's watching something, on YouTube, and he's getting these ideas. But still, he had lost weight. He wasn't sleeping, and I can look back now and I go, oh my gosh, of course, we should have done something. We should have really seen, and all the what ifs and the if onlys spin in my head constantly. Somehow we have to forgive ourselves for what we didn't know, right? I didn't know that he was suicidal. He didn't tell anyone. He had a roommate. Didn't tell his roommate. His roommate's the one that found him because he didn't live in town. He lived at his last military base in Kansas. I will say that I've been a big advocate now for suicide prevention, and I talk about him. I've put benches around. We did a GoFundMe, my family and I, and put the suicide prevention number on the benches. So when people are walking in our local parks, so we've got 3 of them, and they at least, if nothing else, it gets the conversation going about mental health. So I was able to do that. I try to think of ways to honor him, and that to me is talking about him. I've also written the president. I've written my senators. I'm trying to get laws passed about mental health and awareness. Why not, right? Let's be loud. I believe that we've got to talk about it more, because not talking about it, it doesn't further the stigma. It just makes the stigma stay where it is, and until we just are open with it and talk about suicide and mental health, nothing will change. And B, I want my son's life to be more than his death. And that's something else I think is very important to remember, is that our loved ones were way more than how they died. It's horrific, it's horrible, but I will always love him, and I always want to talk about him. And, you know, my dad died of cancer, and he was not a cancer, right? My grandmother was not an Alzheimer's, and my son was not a suicide. They were a person who had a mental disorder, and unfortunately our loved ones succumbed to that disease. And it hurts, and it always will, but I will always love him, and I will always try to honor his memory. I think the best way that we can honor them, though, is by living, because I can tell you sometimes that can be really hard, right? Sometimes we just want to join them. It hurts so much, and we think, I can't do this. This hurts too much. But you can. And the best way we can honor them is by living and embracing the good times, the good days. And, you know, I have grandchildren that just make me smile, and I love them so much. And I want to live for them. I want to be old one day, and I want mental health to be something that people go, you know, just, I'm not feeling right today. I think I need to call my therapist, you know, or, you know, I need to go to the doctor and get some help with this. So that's my prayer. And one last thing, these You Matter rocks, we paint them and we put them out. And I've heard from people who've said that it was just exactly what they needed that day, was to find something that told them they mattered. And it's something small, but it's something I could do. And it also gives me hope in thinking that one day I'll get to see him again, and I do believe I will get to see my son again. And that gives me hope. And that's really what we have to hold on to, at least for me. And I pray that you have that same hope as well. Take care of yourself. God bless.